Evil is not simply a perspective or an illusion that we can ignore and hope it will go away. It can be argued that evil is a real thing, but if we want to solve the problem of evil, we need to understand that it's not caused by demonic spirits and much less a cartoon villain named Satan who is as fictitious as the Zoroastrian god Angramanyu, which the modern day Satan is most likely based on. But there's a reason why characters such as Satan and Gramanyu, as well as Mara from Buddhism or Gaunab from some African mythologies, have been created ever since human beings could communicate. Because life is a bitch, and then we die. And for anyone who even contemplates what's the point of it all, life can seem very futile, especially since nobody knows exactly how humanity began or why we're even here in the first place. And much less does anyone know why the universe exists instead of nothing at all. But even more disturbing than that, life can seem incredibly unfair, unforgiving, and downright cruel, particularly when unfairness and cruelty are deliberately caused by certain people for no rational reason or necessity. This is why evil can be a useful word to describe the intentional but avoidable, intense pain and suffering inflicted upon some people by others for selfish gain, usually in the form of money and or power. And things can seem particularly evil if the suffering caused is simply for the sadistic pleasure of those imposing it upon others. And the pain and suffering most people associate with evil isn't your average pain and suffering, like being sucker punched in the face or having your house broken into. When people think of evil deeds, it usually involves something along the lines of excruciating, agonizing pain, especially if it ends in lifelong trauma or death. One distinguishing factor about evil is that it's intentional and caused by someone who knows what they're doing, particularly when they know they can avoid doing it in the first place. When horrific things are done by someone who is mentally ill or doesn't understand the lasting harm they're causing, that's not seen as evil as it is considered unfortunate. This is also why it can be argued evil doesn't apply to the harm and destruction caused by natural disasters or diseases, since there's no irrefutable evidence of intention behind these events, no matter what pseudo-spiritual nonsense some people try to assign to them. It's also wrong to classify as evil the pain and suffering caused by a doctor operating on someone without any anesthesia due to an emergency, for example, no matter how calm and collected the doctor may seem. Yet the more rational and intelligent the person causing the avoidable pain and suffering for no benefit to the person receiving the pain, but definitely for the selfish and or sadistic pleasure for the person causing the pain, the more evil it can be said to be. In short, evil can be said to be a strictly human problem, not a nature problem, and much less a spiritual problem. Given the intentionally intense yet avoidable pain and suffering certain people inflict upon others, humanity does itself no favors by fabricating beings such as Satan operating from a place such as hell in order to deal with what we perceive as evil. While it's impossible to ever stop evil altogether, given all the unpredictable and uncontrollable aspects of most people's thoughts and behaviors, we can at least dramatically reduce evil and even plan ahead of it by understanding it better. And it's not just religions that get evil wrong. Many secular and even atheist philosophers talk about evil as a morally relativistic perspective. Some have even concluded that it's morally wrong to describe anything as evil. Entire books have been written on the problem of evil, only to conclude that evil exists in order for us to appreciate good, much like we would never know what is light without dark or joy without pain. But that conclusion is not only inaccurate, it's downright ridiculous. Just like no one needs to break a leg in order to appreciate an orgasm, an entire species of animals live and thrive at the bottom of the ocean without ever experiencing any light. Tragic events such as the Holocaust or wars and human slavery, they didn't happen for the sole purpose of future generations to better appreciate peace and freedom, and much less so we can appreciate the love of an imaginary God. Of course, it's useful to appreciate peace and freedom in contrast to the darkest chapters of human history. But we don't need to keep repeating those tragedies as if they're the only way to ever appreciate what is good and beneficial to our well-being and survival. The real reason why evil seems to exist, and human history is littered with wars, genocide, and slavery, for example, is because we are ultimately made of atoms that are in a constant state of change, since matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, but can only transfer from one form to another. And since every action has an equal and opposite reaction, those changes can seem violent and unjust. But at the most base level of matter and energy, these events are just random and indifferent. Meaning and purpose are most likely byproducts of the randomness and indifference of matter and energy being in a constant state of change, not the other way around. At some point, we need to accept reality for what it is and learn to manage our idealized expectations of life if we ever want to solve the problem of evil, and better yet, avoid it in the first place. We can't afford to keep playing these pseudo-spiritual, morally relativistic games using rhetorical smoke and mirrors that prevent us from identifying evil when we see it. Or worse yet, calling something evil when it's not and attributing it all to a demonstrably fictitious being such as Satan, who is as much a figment of our imagination as his ultimate nemesis, God himself. It's high time more people understand what Satan and evil have represented all along: the personification of anything that harms or threatens our survival and well-being. This, of course, poses an interesting question. How do you stop evil without becoming evil yourself? Perhaps by not taking sadistic pleasure through vengeance or retributive justice, and much less believing that whoever engages in seemingly evil actions was possessed by Satan, and therefore you assume you can make them suffer more than necessary, let alone beyond what they reasonably caused someone else to suffer. However, at some point, we need to stop quote-unquote evil people from needlessly harming other people too. And we do ourselves no favors by calling that evil either. The sooner we get past these not so simple yet not incomprehensibly complex questions, such as who are we to judge and identify what's evil and who are we to stop it, the sooner we solve the problem of evil and enjoy the purpose of living. If I got anything wrong in this video, please let me know in the comments below. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for upcoming videos, and check out the links below for my original art and merchandise. And thanks for watching.